Imagine you are the chief financial officer of a Fortune 500 company.
Okay, stressful job already.
Right, very stressful. So you sit down at your desk, you open up your monthly cloud computing expense report, and your jaw just hits the floor. Staring back at you is this massive, completely unexpected line item for tens of thousands of dollars.
Wow.
And the craziest part, you never signed off on a corporate AI strategy. There was no, like, company-wide mandate, no grand memo from the CEO.
Right, no official rollout.
Exactly. Yet, somehow, the bills are skyrocketing,
Yeah.
and your employees are the ones who are quietly pulling the trigger.
It is honestly the quietest technological revolution you could possibly imagine, and it's taking place entirely in the deeply unglamorous world of accounting dashboards.
Yeah, not the usual tech setting.
Not at all. I mean, we always expect massive tech leaps to be announced on a brightly lit stage, by a visionary in a turtleneck.
Oh, totally. The classic Silicon Valley pitch.
Exactly. But this time, the revolution is hiding in the absolute last place anyone is looking.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are so thrilled to have you with us. Our mission today is to look past those flashy tech demos and dig into a really fascinating May 30, 2026 article from Newslit.
It's a great piece.
It really is. It's titled Anthropic in the Era of Profitable AI Validation. And what we're looking at here is a tectonic shift in how artificial intelligence actually operates as a business.
Yeah, and to understand why this matters to you, we have to look at how the industry has operated up until, up until this exact moment.
Right.
Because for years, AI has run on a simple, frankly brutal equation. You take billions of dollars.
Just staggering amounts of money.
Unimaginable amounts. You buy massive clusters of computer chips. You train what we call frontier AI, which, just means the most advanced cutting-edge models that are currently possible.
Okay.
You launch the model, you run out of cash, you raise another massive round of billions, and you just repeat the cycle.
A never-ending loop.
Exactly. It has been this cash bonfire at a scale that made even the most ambitious Silicon Valley startups look, frugal.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the article highlights a rumor that completely shatters that cash-burning equation. Anthropic, the company behind the Claude family of models, is reportedly closing in on its first profitable quarter.
Which is huge.
Profitable. In frontier AI. That's wild.
Yeah.
So we're going to intentionally skip the usual tech chatter today.
Yeah, we're not doing
No
that.
debating which chatbot writes a better poem or, arguing about benchmark test scores. We are focusing entirely on the most honest, brutal metric in all of business. Who is actually paying the bill and why?
And that brings us directly back to that CFO, right? The one staring at the surprise bill.
Right, the jaw on the floor.
Yes. Anthropic isn't nearing profitability because enterprise executives suddenly woke up and decided to, buy AI for their whole company.
Right.
Revenue is exploding purely from bottom-up adoption.
Okay, wait. I'm struggling with this a bit. If the IT department has the gates locked, right, and procurement hasn't approved a budget,
Yep.
how are employees expensing tens of thousands of dollars without getting caught? My first thought is that you just have, I don't know, a bunch of marketing writers using company credit cards to sign up for $20 monthly chatbot subscriptions.
Sure. That's what most people think.
But that doesn't add up to a structural shift in a tech giant's balance sheet, right?
No, it doesn't. And you've hit on the exact misconception that confuses most people looking at this space. We are not talking about individual employees going to a website and chatting with a bot for $20 a month.
Okay, so what is it then?
That $20 thing, that's a flat fee software subscription. The massive bills, the ones freaking out the finance teams, those are coming from API charges.
Hold on, let's make sure we are all on the same page here. For anyone listening who isn't, a software developer, what exactly is an API in this context, and why does it generate such a massive bill?
Okay, so API stands for Application Programming Interface.
Right.
Think of it as a hidden tunnel. It allows two different pieces of software to talk directly to each other without a human ever actually looking at a screen.
Okay, a hidden tunnel. I like that.
Yeah. So what is happening in these companies is the rise of what we call shadow IT. You have data analysts, internal developers, and power users who are just tired of manual busy work.
We just want to go home at 5.
Exactly. So instead of chatting with an AI on a website, they write a small piece of code. And that code automatically takes, let's say, 10,000 customer feedback emails from the company database.
Okay.
It sends them through that API tunnel to Anthropic's Claude model, asks Claude to categorize them, and pipes the results directly back into a spreadsheet.
So AI is operating completely invisibly in the background.
And invisibly, exactly. And here is the kicker. API pricing isn't a flat $20 fee.
Right, it scales.
It scales dramatically. You pay a tiny fraction of a cent for every word the model reads and every word it generates.
Wow.
So when an internal developer sets up an automated script that processes millions of words a day, that fraction of a cent compounds rapidly into like a $50,000 monthly cloud bill.
But how does IT not block it?
Because it's running through the existing corporate Amazon or Google Cloud accounts. The IT department didn't authorize the AI part, but it just gets absorbed into the monthly infrastructure spend they already have.
I see it like water finding cracks in a foundation.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Right. Because corporate IT departments built this massive concrete dam. They have strict procurement rules, multi-year review processes.
Lots of red tape.
Tons of red tape. But the employees are under immense pressure to deliver results. They are stressed, they are overworked, so they naturally flow toward the path of least resistance.
Yep, they find the cracks.
They find the cracks in the dam. They use these API tunnels to bypass the rigid corporate structure entirely just because it helps them get their work done by Friday afternoon. It's like a digital Trojan horse.
A digital Trojan horse, yeah.
But instead of an invading army, it's a legion of super efficient digital assistants just sneaking into the enterprise through the employees themselves.
What's fascinating here is that this dynamic represents the absolute purest definition of product market fit.
Really? How so?
Well, in the software world, companies love to throw around user counts and, free signups as proof of success.
Oh, you have 1 million users.
Right, but people will sign up for a free demo of literally anything. True product market fit is when usage compounds organically.
Without the company pushing it.
Exactly. Anthropic didn't deploy an army of salespeople to wine and dine these developers. The usage became sticky because the utility was just undeniable.
The Newslet article compares this to how we saw enterprise software evolve in the 2010s. Like, think about Slack or Dropbox.
Yes, those are perfect historical parallels.
Because nobody mandated them at first.
Right. Early on, no chief technology officer mandated Dropbox. Employees simply started putting their work files into their personal Dropbox accounts because the official corporate servers were slow and, well, clunky.
So they just solved their own problem.
Exactly. And eventually, Dropbox went to those executives and said, look, 500 of your employees are already using our system to run your business.
So you want to secure it.
Don't you want to pay us to add enterprise-grade security to it? That was the pitch. And AI APIs are following that exact same playbook, just at a vastly more expensive scale.
But, okay, this creates a massive contradiction in my mind.
How so?
If this bottom-up adoption is booming so aggressively, why have we spent the last year and a half drowning in tech media headlines claiming enterprise AI is a total failure?
Yeah, the doom and gloom.
Right. Every other day, I read an article saying companies are pulling back, the return on investment is zero, and the AI boom was just a mirage. Are they just making that up?
So the media wasn't lying, but they were looking at the completely wrong metric.
What were they looking at?
They were evaluating corporate pilots.
You mean those highly publicized proof of concept experiments?
Yes, exactly. For the last 2 years, Fortune 500 companies knew they needed to, quote, do something with AI.
Right. FOMO. Fear of missing out.
Complete FOMO. So executives set up these top-down pilot programs. They isolated a small team, gave them a tiny budget, and built a custom internal AI chatbot.
Okay.
The problem is the mechanism of how a pilot works. You are essentially asking an employee to break their normal workflow.
Oh, I hate that.
Everyone does. If I'm an accountant, you're telling me to stop working in Excel, open a new browser tab, log into this clunky corporate chatbot, type out a prompt, wait, copy the AI's answer, and then paste it back into my spreadsheet.
That sounds miserable. It's an afterthought. It adds friction to my day instead of removing it.
And because it adds friction, what happens? The employee stops using it after 2 weeks.
They just go back to the old way?
Yep. Then the executives look at the low engagement metrics, declare the AI pilot a failure, and quietly shut it down. That failed pilot generates a press release, and the tech journalists write a doom and gloom article.
So what does this all mean? Were all those tech journalists completely wrong for a year and a half, or just looking in the wrong place?
They reported the data they had access to. A failed corporate pilot is a very visible, clean story to write.
That cuts.
But journalists don't have access to a company's internal AWS billing dashboards. They entirely missed the shadow IT usage.
The hidden tunnels.
Right. Remember the difference in mechanism.
Mhm.
A pilot forces the worker to go to the AI. An API integration brings the AI directly into the worker's existing tools. The accountant just presses a button inside Excel, and the work is done.
Wow. The article says the API bill is the only metric that doesn't lie.
It really is. Think about the switching costs.
Okay.
If you run a cheap, contained pilot and it fails, you lose a little bit of time and maybe 50 grand. You just shrug and move on.
A rounding error for these companies.
Exactly. But if your internal developers have organically wired an AI API into the very core of your daily data processing, turning it off would literally break your business.
You can't just unplug it.
No. A company paying $100,000 a month in API charges has made a structural commitment, whether the CEO realizes it or not.
Which brings us to a part of the article that totally recontextualizes the whole industry.
Yes.
Anthropic isn't operating in a vacuum here.
Yeah.
At the exact same time they're nearing profitability, OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, is reporting massive revenue growth.
Huge growth.
They're becoming one of the fastest-growing software businesses in human history. The article calls this a parallel signal.
We really need to pause on this because it is the most critical distinction in the entire analysis. In business, when one single company cracks product market fit, it is very easy to write it off as an anomaly.
Right. If only OpenAI was making money, every analyst on Wall Street would just say, well, Sam Altman is a genius at distribution.
Or the ChatGPT brand name is just so famous that it's masking a mediocre product.
Yeah, exactly. And if only Anthropic was succeeding, the narrative would be enterprise buyers are naturally cautious, and Anthropic's Claude model has a reputation for being safe, so they won the corporate race.
But when two fierce rivals hit the exact same massive revenue inflection point at the exact same time, you are no longer looking at the success of an individual company.
You're looking at something bigger.
You are looking at a fundamental shift in the market itself.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Think about it like track and field, right?
Okay.
Imagine you are watching a race and two rival runners break the 4-minute mile on the exact same day.
Wow. Okay.
Up until that point, maybe the record was thought to be completely impossible. If one guy breaks it, you might analyze his specific training routine or, the brand of shoes he was wearing.
Sure, you focus on the individual.
Right. But when two people do it simultaneously, you have to step back and realize the human body has crossed a new threshold. The track itself has fundamentally changed.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks. In this scenario, the AI models themselves have crossed a critical capability threshold.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it explains the brutal new calculus that every business leader is waking up to right now.
The reality check.
The massive reality check. Because for the last 2 years, executives had a very convenient excuse. They could sit on the sidelines and say, oh, these large language models hallucinate too much.
They make things up.
Right. Or they'd say, the context windows, meaning how much information the model can remember in a single conversation, are too small. They just aren't ready for serious enterprise deployment.
But the parallel signal destroys that excuse, doesn't it?
Entirely. The models cross the threshold. The context windows are now massive enough to process entire books in seconds.
Which is insane to think about.
It is. And the reasoning capabilities are sharp enough to handle messy, disorganized corporate data. The excuse that AI isn't ready is dead.
So they have to move now.
The window of safety for waiting on the sidelines has officially closed. The risk used to be moving too early and wasting money on a hype cycle.
Now what's the risk?
Now, the only risk is falling hopelessly behind the competitor whose employees are already 10 times more efficient because they integrated the APIs.
Wow. So if you are still running a sandboxed, isolated pilot program to cautiously test if AI is useful,
you're already losing. You're losing to the company whose shadow IT department is quietly running millions of automated tasks a day.
and this forces a massive maturation across the entire tech sector. We are transitioning out of the convince me this AI thing actually works phase, right?
Yes.
And we are diving headfirst into the how on earth do we govern and pay for all this AI we are already addicted to phase.
Yeah, that's exactly where we are.
I have to imagine that is a terrifying transition for a corporate procurement manager. The article notes that OpenAI and Anthropic are no longer burning cash just to create demand out of thin air.
The demand is there.
They are now desperately trying to scale their servers to meet proven existing demand. That is the holy grail of enterprise software.
It really is.
But it also totally changes how these tech giants compete with each other, doesn't it?
It changes the entire battlefield. A year ago, Anthropic and OpenAI competed by issuing flashy press releases claiming their new model scored like 2 percentage points higher on some obscure standardized math
Right,
tests.
the benchmark wars.
Yeah, but business buyers don't care about that anymore. When a technology becomes a structural, load-bearing pillar of your business, the criteria for choosing a vendor get very practical very fast.
Let's get practical then. What does that new battleground actually look like?
Well, it looks like uptime guarantees. If a company's entire logistics department relies on an API tunnel to route shipments, what happens if Anthropic servers crash for 4 hours?
The business stops.
The business stocks. So uptime matters. It also looks like data privacy contracts, and crucially, it looks like price per token.
Okay, let's pause there. Price per token. For you listening, we hear this phrase thrown around a lot in AI pricing. What exactly is a token, and why is pricing it the new battleground?
So think of a token as roughly a piece of a word. When you send a sentence to an AI, it chops those words into tokens to process them. When you are paying a fraction of a cent per token, it sounds incredibly cheap.
Sounds like nothing.
Right, but when an enterprise is processing billions of tokens a month, a competitor offering a 10% discount on token pricing can mean saving hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We are seeing a fierce price war developing not over intelligence, but over efficiency. It also comes down to avoiding vendor lock-in.
Right, because nobody wants to be entirely dependent on one single landlord for their core infrastructure.
Exactly.
If OpenAI suddenly doubles their prices, you want the ability to easily point your API tunnel over to Anthropic instead.
You need leverage.
We are also seeing these crazy new ceilings being set for individual power users. The article points out OpenAI's $200 per month Pro plan
Yep.
and Anthropic's $100 per month Max plan. Those are deep numbers. You don't pay $200 a month just to play around with a chatbot that writes funny haikus.
No, you definitely don't. That is serious professional-grade software pricing.
Right.
That is the kind of money a graphic designer pays for the Adobe Creative Suite. Or, an engineer pays for CAD software. It proves that for a certain class of worker, these models are now undeniable professional instruments.
But I have to ask, taking all of this in, does this mean the magical phase of AI is officially over?
Oh, interesting.
Because we spent years marveling at these tools, watching them generate art and code out of thin air. It felt like magic.
Right.
Now we are talking about uptime guarantees, vendor lock-in, and token pricing. Are these frontier models just becoming the equivalent of a boring utility bill, like paying for cloud storage or electricity?
This raises an important question, and honestly, it's a completely natural emotional reaction to have.
It's a little sad.
It is. We crave the magic. We love the disruption of the hype cycle. But becoming a boring utility is actually the ultimate goal of any truly transformative technology. This isn't a crash. It is a graduation.
A graduation to the accounting department.
Exactly. Think about electricity or the early internet.
Okay.
When they first arrived, they were magical, they were terrifying, and they were highly unpredictable. Now, they are just a boring bill you pay every single month.
Yeah, you don't even think about it.
But that boring status is proof that they are utterly indispensable. You literally cannot run a modern business without electricity or internet access.
That's very true.
That is the threshold artificial intelligence has just crossed. The finance teams who are getting surprised by their massive LLM bills today are the same teams who are going to be forced to write the formal multi-million-dollar procurement contracts tomorrow.
Right.
The magic hasn't disappeared. It has just been institutionalized.
So to bring this all together for you listening at home, we've taken you on quite a journey today.
We really have.
We looked past the flashy headlines, the staged keynotes, and the dramatic narratives of failed corporate pilots. You now know that while the world was distracted by all that hype, the real AI revolution was happening quietly, underground.
In the shadows.
Exactly. It happened from the bottom up. It happened because everyday employees, stressed and looking for a better way to work, found the cracks in the corporate foundation.
They found the tunnels.
They wired these incredibly powerful APIs directly into their daily routines. And that silent, undeniable utility is what finally pushed the AI industry out of the cash-burning phase and toward real structural profitability.
But as we close this out, I want to leave you with one final, larger implication to chew on.
Yeah.
Something that goes far beyond just Anthropic's balance sheet. We just spent 20 minutes discussing how employees fundamentally rewired enterprise workflows from the bottom up simply because a tool was useful.
Right.
They bypassed the IT departments, they bypassed the executive mandates, they completely sidestepped the official corporate strategy. If they can do that with AI, who actually holds the power in the future of corporate technology?
Wow. That completely flips the script on how we think about business leadership.
Is the era of the all-powerful executive technology mandate over? Moving forward, will the technological direction of a Fortune 500 company really be decided by a chief information officer in a boardroom?
Or will it be someone else?
Or will it simply be dictated by the collective, unstoppable habits of the workforce?
That is a brilliant question to leave on. Because if the balance sheet doesn't lie, then the workforce is already voting with their API calls. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you spending it with us to look a little closer, understand the mechanisms behind the headlines, and question the narratives around us. Remember, sometimes the most profound changes in history don't announce themselves with a microphone on a stage. They just quietly show up on a monthly expense report. Keep asking questions, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.